I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, October the 19th, where finally this October supply pressure is really starting to hit home, and even on your bigger feeders and just everything. There's just so many cattle moving right now. It's virtually impossible not to have your holes start to plug up. You talk to anybody that's been in the business that long, there's not that many outlets for cattle. Even though we are buying some stocker cattle, some winter stocker cattle to put out on wheat on these lighter weights. We've got some of those middleweight cattle going into growing yards and starting facilities. We've got these big calves that have to go right on to feed immediately, and they're filling up the newly arrival pens at their feedlots, and it's just got everything clogged up. It's hard to get trucks. You got a lot of direct cattle and previously contracted or videoed cattle that are moving, and just everything happening at the same time. It's virtually impossible to keep the fire built under this market that we had going into the fall, as it seemed like we had so much demand due to cheap corn and extra wheat in the southern plains, and just everybody ready to buy some cattle for going into winter. It looked like it was going to hold, but we're just getting so much pressure. It just has to happen. You look at the board on Wednesday, December live cattle up 67 cents to end the day at 116.65. Your spot October live cattle up 30 cents at 111.47. We may get close to that on your fat cattle trade, but yet to be seen. November feeder cattle down 35 cents, and they were actually mixed because the front month was a little bit higher, but November was down 35 cents at 152.07. Your fat cattle have yet to trade, of course, so far this week, and really haven't seen any direct sales starting to come through yet. Your fed cattle exchange, 230 head sold of the 919 head offered. They bring 109. Fat cattle auction, they had a lot more cattle sold than that at Tama, Iowa. Good fed cattle auction there up in Iowa, and they sold 814 head. The market was lower there too, 2.25 to 3.25 lower, with most of your choice steers and heifers selling from 108 to 112.85. Look at your feeder markets, your real-time index on Beef Market Central, based on an 800-pound steer, laid on Wednesday at 153.51, down just 31 cents, and thought it might be lower than that because some of your Southern Plains sales were selling their bigger feeders quite a bit lower, but some of those Northern Plains and farmer feeder-driven markets further north were selling well enough to kind of hold things together, despite having a lot of calves working their way into that 700 to 899 pound range. But you look at OKC West, 8,500 head for the two-day sale, Tuesday and Wednesday. So they had about 3,500 calves on Tuesday and about 5,000 yearlings on Wednesday. But the market was quite a bit lower. Thought it might have some pressure to it, but lower than I think a lot of people thought. Feeder steers $5 to $7 lower. Feeder heifers $2 to mostly $3 lower. And if you remember on Tuesday, the calves were $3 to $8 lower. Dodge City, Kansas, around 2,600 head there. The market was kind of hard to tell. Some of the cattle had carrying a lot of flesh and not a lot of average conditioned cattle to call the market on, but the ones that could compare had feeder steers $5 to $12 lower and feeder heifers $4 to $6 lower. So a lot of pressure on these markets. But look at some individual quotes. This first one I'm going to give you on a personal note there. My grandpa, when he got out of the World War II, he was from Binkelman, Nebraska. He decided to settle in northeast New Mexico, around Clayton, New Mexico. He thought that was cattle country, prime time right there. And as soon as he got back and got things together from being in the war, he went to building a sale barn in Clayton, New Mexico. And who would have thought 75 years later here, his grandson would be given an individual quote from the same sale barn here on your feeder flash. 5 states livestock auction in Clayton, New Mexico. broadcast every Wednesday on DV Auction here that get some big strings in the fall. I always have a good fall, but it's real seasonal there. But there at Clayton, they had 62 head of mixed colored, mixed quality kind of steers there at 2:30 in the afternoon, weighed 851 at 144.75. Look at some markets up in the northern plains there. Faith Livestock Commission, Faith, South Dakota, had some big calves at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 77 head of 703 pound sure enough calves bring 169.50. And the highest quote for your Wednesday was Bassett Livestock Auction, Bassett, Nebraska. At 5:30 in the early evening, there had 60 head of 917 pound steers bring 166.25, and the market on those was called $4 to $6 lower. But that's your feeder flash for Thursday.